All right, we are live. Welcome to Miss Kulala's Mystical Musings, to That Mystery Show podcast. Today, I have my beautiful sister Rachele. Rachele, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hey guys, I'm Rachele from the channel Amethyst Ascension, Tarot and Astrology. How you doing?
How you doing?
How you doing?
Thank you so much for being here with me today, sis, because this is a little bit of a topic that we have been kind of bouncing around whether to discuss or not. And I think that we both decided there's some important aspects that we want to share our thoughts about. So we've got a couple people that have showed up in chat already. We got Ange from Roots and Waves, and she has a meeting, so she's not going to be here, but she will catch the playback. So thank you so much, Ange. I appreciate that.
Hi, Ange.
And Darla is here. Thank you so much for being here, Darla. I really appreciate you, my dear. And
hi, Darla. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Okay. So our intentions, are not to come off like we're professionals by any means, but the fact that I am really that I'm considering is that a lot of us that are thinking about this word are not professionals. You know what I mean? So I think that it's important that we share our thoughts on this from our own point of view. You know what I mean? What do you think, sis?
Absolutely. I think that the word is used all too often. I've seen so many things on social media where, oh, my ex was a narcissist, my mom was a narcissist, my parents were a narcissist, my friend was a narcissist. There's always an excuse in order to put the blame onto somebody else, and using words like that. Now, I'm not saying that there are not narcissists, but they're rare. They're not as common as what people would like to think. For me, I think a lot of it comes down to people being accountable for their own actions as well, and doing a little bit of shadow work. Because
I think so. I agree with that.
Everybody's a narcissist.
Well, and I think we all have these tendencies, you know what I mean? Like if you break down what it is, and I know you and I have done a little research into what narcissistic personality disorder is.
Yes.
And you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, I've got a little list here of things that it says. It says narcissistic personality disorder involves a pervasive pattern of grandiosity and fantasy or behavior, need for admiration, and lack of empathy. Those with narcissistic personality disorder may have a grandiose sense of self-importance, so exaggerates achievements and talents. Says that they can be preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. Believe that they are special and can only be understood by other special or high status people. I mean, I have so much to say about this list already. Let me just tell you. Require excessive admiration, have a sense of entitlement, i.e., unreasonable expectations of especially favorable treatment, take advantage of others to achieve his or her own ends, lack of empathy, or is unwilling to recognize or identify with the feelings and needs of others, is often envious of others or believes that others are envious of them, and show arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes.
So that's a lot to take in. And I am reminded of like where the word narcissist comes from. And if you're not, I'm just going to give you a brief overview. The Greek myth of Narcissus was a beautiful man, a young man who fell in love with his own reflection in the water. And he became so obsessed that he wasted away, unable to pull himself away. So the key takeaway of that is he fell in love with his reflection. And everything that you just described to me sounds like an image right? So
Yes.
it's not self-love as much as it is an obsession with yourself, a self-obsession with an image or an illusion. So to me, I can see already is that, this has being a narcissist doesn't have anything to do with like self-love or even knowing thyself as much as it is you are obsessed with an image that you are trying to present to someone, which means you're not going to be like that all the time.
That's true. That's true.
I think that, narcissistic personality disorder is something that would have to be diagnosed by a professional. So
Yes.
sit here and contemplating if somebody is or isn't is, to me, again, it makes using that word very dismissive.
Very loosely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Carla, before we even started this, one of the things that I said was even if you are somebody that is a mental health person, somebody that is even certified as a psychiatrist or psychologist, for them to actually like say that somebody is a narcissist based off of something that they see on social media or something, that is like irresponsible in my opinion, because that is like a clinical diagnosis. Okay,
Yes.
they would have to sit down with that person and actually examine many things and talk to them, not just what they see on social media. And that's where I'm seeing the problem.
Absolutely. Because, behind that mask of extreme confidence that people see, according to like the Mayo Clinic, I looked up, also, it is because of they're not very sure of their own self-worth and they're easily upset by the slightest criticism. So this person is just so invested in their image because the way I can't even give it a because like you said, there's going to be so many different possibilities of why that person is that way. It comes from judging somebody by the cover of their book instead of understanding what's entailed within it. And I will be the first to tell you that I don't think it's easy to deal with somebody that is, that is showing you, or how do I say it? Showing you this side of them. You know what I mean? That a narcissistic person, because we could also get into like examples of what narcissistic communication is. It would be hard to be on the receiving end of somebody like that. So I understand that it's, if we know enough about it and what it looks like, I can understand somebody maybe doing that and being a little bit dismissive because they're trying to label it so that they understand that type of behavior. But there's so much unfortunate things that can happen because of that, because I also know from my own study of learning about autism and neurodivergence that there's a lot of overlap there too.
Yeah. Yes.
So why don't we get into real quick, like, so we talked about what narcissism is. There's, we talked about, the clinical definition of it. There is something that we can discuss talking about self-esteem, healthy self-awareness, and ego-driven image obsession. And just to give like a brief summary, self-esteem is constructive self-reflection and the ability to learn from criticism. And what did we just learn? That narcissism doesn't really like to be criticized. They can't really handle that. And so someone who has healthy self-esteem are more likely to engage in a respectful and supportive way. Whereas if we look at, someone who has ego-driven obsession, again, they're not really, they're more inclined to protect their identity, because that's really when the ego is out of balance. That's what it does. It comes to your defense.
Yes.
And so again, self-love is it's recognizing and retaining self-respect for your accomplishments, your attributes, and respect for truth and accountability. That's, I think, self-love is digging into that shadow and integrating it.
Yes. Good morning, Summer.
Oh, good morning, Summer. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Do you think that we could go down these lists really quick that we talked about? Because I said I have a whole lot to say about these particular things that they say about.
Absolutely.
And give our 2 cents on every single one of these.
I'm all for it. Do it.
Okay. So the first one is have a grandiose sense of self-importance.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ways that I have seen this big time, granted, because we are in the spiritual community, okay,
Mm-hmm.
And the tarot community and stuff like that, is with gatekeeping.
Ooh,
and
yeah.
Also with really thinking like one of the things that you talk about is like being an omnist, because you see truth in every one of them, but not one of them is the whole truth. So
Yes.
when you find somebody that is spiritually new, like whether it's somebody that's born again Christian, or whether it's somebody that has just started a new path and they are just on fire with it, and all of a sudden that is the truth, and it should be the truth for everybody.
Yeah.
I think that is the grandiose sense of self-importance. Or when we think that we are in a community where we've always got to be teaching people instead of also being in a state of learning, right?
Yes.
That is also a sense of self-importance.
Mm-hmm. And to me, that comes from assumptions and projection, because again, you're presuming what someone else may or may not understand,
or need in their life.
Yeah, or that even. Yeah. Yeah, gatekeeping in itself, I feel, is a superior type of thinking, because you're,
exactly.
But not that I think that gatekeeping is something that isn't necessary for some things. Like, again, I think I've like closed practices and stuff like that. But when we're generalizing, and yes.
Well, it says exaggerates achievements and talents.
Oh.
So I think all too often in our society, I'm not even going to just say in our community, but in our society in general, we are taught, well, you don't boast. You don't talk about the new things that you've got, because if you do, there's other people that don't have those things. So we are so used to sharing all of our bad stuff and everything that we're going through. And not that that's a bad thing, but why is it a bad thing to share our wins also? So I can see this when somebody's doing really well, other people have this where the support stops, where they feel like somebody has gotten too big. And the more your channel grows, the more that you're going to see it. Trust me. This can be misconstrued as somebody thinking that they're grandiose or self-important, when it's just them shining in their own right. And there is nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. If I could, I think you've made me think about something, is when we were talking about self-love versus narcissistic defense mechanisms. Like, self-love is what you're describing.
Yes.
I think narcissistic defense mechanisms is that, oh, well, you must hate me because of this. It's when we say things that we're projecting what someone else might assume about you. That, I think, is or could be that narcissistic defense behavior. Like, well, you must hate me because I am successful, instead of I'm successful and I'm good with it, and it really doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, because I am happy with that. What do you think about that?
I think that it all falls into that. But I also think that people have a problem with I've heard people say things like, whenever somebody else is shining, I feel like my light is dimmed because of somebody else shining. That is a personal problem.
Yeah.
Okay. That is somebody that's afraid to shine in their own right, because they have been told that you don't boast, you don't talk about your wins, you don't talk about your successes. And I feel like, because Summer and I were having this conversation earlier, I feel like it is more also towards women, because when women become successful, then they're either money hungry, or they're gold diggers, or they slept their way to the top, or they've done so many other things. They're just power hungry. But when it is a man that is in a powerful position, he's worked really hard to get there. And I mean, I hear the double standards. Okay, so I do think that that comes into play.
Hi, Tony.
Hi, Tony. So I do think that some of these things that are not really narcissistic, that term gets pushed in a broader sense in order to keep people in line, if you know what I mean.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that social media is just a breeding ground for divisiveness and just division in general. It's which, I'm going to encourage you to keep going on, unless there was something else you wanted to add to that, but I think you nailed it.
For that one, absolutely. I feel like I spoke what I wanted to on that one. The next one is being preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. So for me, I understand where there is a difference between being arrogant,
right,
and having self-love, or having confidence in yourself, or feeling empowered in what you've done, looking at it. And it also kind of goes in, they all kind of go in with each other. Okay. Yeah. It's almost like they're trying to keep people in line. You're not that special. Well, you know what? Yes, you are that special. Everybody is that special. That's the point.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at with that whole fluffing yourself up at the expense of someone else. No matter how that comes out, if you have to bring up somebody else to compare your achievement to, no matter what it is, or call out somebody to say your behavior is better, that's
right. Yes.
That's still, that's that grandioso. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Yes. That's
I agree with that, most definitely. I do think, like what Summer just said, oh gosh, yes, social media is a culprit to a lot of those things. Absolutely.
It is.
It does create that need to get the likes. And because we feel like in order to be seen or heard, we've got to play in the algorithm. And sometimes that includes, and let's be honest, we're taught that from the time that we're children. If you do good, you're going to get a gold star. You're going to get, you did good, you're going to get a treat. If you do bad, you're going to get your hand slapped, and we're going to make an example of you. So stay in line.
And some people, like I can speak for myself, and I'm sure you understand this too, is if there's ever a time that you felt like you had to fight to get attention or love in your youth, it does tend to, it carries into your adulthood. Oh, I'm sorry, I got to read this. I think my goats are narcissist. I love that. We'll have you on the podcast and we can talk about it.
Maybe we could do some tarot readings on your goats.
And make sure that you have pictures and videos, please, because they are cute. So yes, and just having a presence on social media is showing that you want some type of validation, right?
Absolutely.
And even if you don't, I mean, the fact that you're putting yourself out there is a form of vulnerability.
I think you kind of get into the gaslighting bit a little bit. You talked about it a little bit, I think. And
yes. So
why is it a bad thing when we are seeking to be heard and to be validated? In so many cases, when in our lives we have felt like we haven't been validated, we have not been heard, we get dismissed all the time. So using that in a blanket term, like you're just a narcissist if you're seeking those things, is absolutely ridiculous.
I think so too. And it all comes from, again, assumptions and projections of who we are.
Yes.
So, and if you're saying someone is a narcissist. And believe
Um,
me, I've thought these things in my own head. So, and I also know where it comes from. If you're thinking that about someone, my advice is just take a look at yourself.
yeah, and I've been there. I've said it many times. I've fallen for that trap many times. And
Yes.
then, and I'll still say it sometimes in passing because it is like a social thing. You know what I mean? You get so used to saying something, but I really don't. I honestly don't feel that way.
Same here.
I
Yeah.
don't. I think it's very rare for somebody to truly be a clinically diagnosed narcissist. And I think that there's other things that are very closely related to that, which we are going to get into.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Hi, Lady Blind Wolf.
Hi, Lady Blind Wolf.
And Carolina. Hi.
Hi,
Caroline.
Carolina.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you. Happy Friday.
Whoop,
So, yeah, actually, before we get into that, let's talk about that, the whole mislabeling neurodivergence. It's like,
mhm.
people on the autistic spectrum, and I have a granddaughter who is a high level autistic. She's level 10, and she's 4, so she's not really going to present any of these. But you also have a list too of what you think, or not what you think, what you found
Common
describes,
traits. Yeah.
yes, autism, because they might appear aloof,
Yep.
they can appear self-centered or emotionally detached, but that
Yes.
is often a sensory overload. And neuro people that are neurodivergent definitely have communication differences, and neurodivergence is a difference in the way that our brain thinks versus neurotypical. And that would be a whole other conversation. But here we are looking at where you can see that there are people that, especially that go undiagnosed. And I will tell you, factually speaking, my daughter graduates as a psychology major. She gets her bachelor's here in a few days.
Whoop,
She
whoop.
told me, I know, I'm so excited for her and
So
proud.
proud of her. My
Um,
goodness.
80% of women go undiagnosed when it comes to neurodivergence, autism specifically.
Yeah.
So again, that would be a whole other topic, but think about that. Women naturally mask, and we're taught to mask at a very young
Yep.
age. So, uh,
Yep.
what did Darla? Temperament and context play such a big part in this. So, since I don't know someone else's heart, not my place to judge or label them. Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. That's what I said. It all falls into the whole labeling thing because when we label other people, we are limiting them.
Yep. Yep. And it is our own personal accountability that says, okay, I don't have to react every time.
Right. Yep.
So, tell me what you have on that list, sis, of about autistic behavior or
For
character.
the common traits for autism.
Yes.
Okay, there's 25 of them, so this is a little bit long.
Okay.
So one of them is stimming.
Okay.
So that
Yep.
can be like
Right.
twirling their hair, popping their knuckles,
Yep.
moving, rocking back and forth.
Uh-huh.
Um, just like a repetitive movement that they
Uh-huh.
might do. And it could be something small that you don't recognize, but it
Yep.
could also be something bigger that you do see.
Yes.
Somebody that they isolate themselves, a lack of friends. One of
Mhm.
the common traits for autistic
Mhm.
temperaments because I think it is a coping mechanism. They get overstimulated, so it's harder for them in larger groups.
Yes.
Sorry. Another one is
Yeah, like something that you might think someone looking on the outside could mistake it for someone that might have some narcissistic tendencies. And those are the ones that come out in communication. Like I know that with my granddaughter, She's not assessing the room. You know what I mean? She will never read the room. She's never going to read the room. Someone that is narcissist will probably read the room. You know what I mean? When I'm talking about in communication, things that we just blurt out or we can't control, like truth bombing maybe, or and sometimes that comes off as, geez, that was harsh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it is things in communication. Those would be big key things that might overlap in this type of disorder.
And see, for me, I always read the room.
Yeah.
I do. I feel energies of people. I can feel when somebody walks in the room, how it can completely change the energy of the room.
And what I mean by that, I should interject, is I don't mean that they won't read the room. They're not going to, it's not going to affect how they communicate
necessarily.
Right. It's not going to affect how they communicate. In fact, they could more than likely they would get overstimulated, and either it would affect them and it would come out, and it depends on the level of autism, or even, ADHD falls under that same umbrella. And there's actually a big old list that falls under that umbrella. But someone that is struggling to communicate, they again would probably stim, and stimming can be very brutal sometimes to the onlooker. They could hit themselves or pinch themselves, or sometimes Lennox will even pinch her mommy. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's because she's overstimulated, and usually it's stress related. And so someone that, has a neurological type of disorder might say something without thinking. There's all sorts of things that can manifest that come out as whoa, unless you really know and understand that person is struggling with communication, that is from a neurological standpoint. Then you might see that and go, wow, why is that person acting like that? Unless it's obvious. I know that, like for myself growing up, I always associated autism with Rain Man.
Right.
And now I understand that it is a very broad spectrum. And there have been studies on the overlap between autism and narcissistic personality disorder. So if there weren't actual studies on it, then I wouldn't even be bringing it up, if you know what I'm saying. But I think a lot of us go undiagnosed. And so when you have a social media presence, and say you don't even know these things about yourself unless you are very self-aware, because personally, not everybody needs a diagnosis to understand that they might struggle in certain areas with communication, or you are upfront about it. So, but people that have not educated themselves on these differences might not even know it. And so again, we fall into that. It's unfortunate to mislabel when we just really don't have the understanding. And like Darla said, the whole temperament and context plays such a big part, and not knowing what someone else's heart and intentions are leads to judgment and mislabeling.
But let me just say, that is also very tricky, because what is somebody's baseline could be different than another person's baseline as far as characteristics go, even in their facial features. So some people, when they're dealing with grief or anything, they might laugh instead of cry. So we cannot always automatically assume just by what we're seeing either.
That is oh my gosh, yes, that's a really good point. Yes, excellent point. I think there are key things that we can look for, and we had just started talking about like gaslighting and passive aggression. I think that understanding what those two things are, because I honestly don't think that somebody that is dealing with a neurodivergent disorder, especially at a high level of it, is going to be as capable of that type of behavior.
I think that, honestly, I see somebody more in what they do rather than what they say. Okay.
Yeah.
by
Yes.
their actions. So narcissists are known for being more self-important, where they're
Yeah.
not supportive of other people.
Mm-hmm.
Do they ever, excuse me, do they ever lift up other people and support other people?
Yes.
Or is it always just about them? You know what I mean? If you're in a
Yeah.
conversation with somebody, is it equal? I'm not saying don't talk about yourself, but are you also allowing the other person to talk about themselves as well? And are you listening when they're talking?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Although I'm not saying that that's a full-fledged narcissist, but that's tendencies.
Right. And we all have them. Like Tony says, there's a fine line between self-righteous people and narcissistic behavior. And I'm
There
thinking,
is, really.
uh, self-righteousness. What is that? Let's talk about that. What is that? What do you think that is?
Self-righteous is somebody, in my opinion, that never sees their own shadow. They never see their own shortcomings. They think that everything that they do is, it's like the hero's journey, okay? All
Mhm.
they see is everything that they're doing, and there's a reason why they do everything instead of seeing their own part in every situation,
Well,
okay?
break down the word self-righteous.
Yeah,
To me, it's the people that think that they only see their own point of view.
yeah.
It's hard for them to see someone else's point of view. To me, that is self-righteous. And that is, again, not opening yourself up to, like what you said, listening to respond or just listening. Because we're all going to have our own opinions, right? So does that make us all self-righteous because we all have our own opinions? What makes us self-righteous? I think it's not listening to someone else and letting it, I don't know, maybe just think about it. Just think about it.
I think it's even a little bit more than that, though. I
Okay.
think somebody that is self-righteous really just never sees their faults in anything.
Yeah.
They think that their way is the only way,
Mhm.
and that they have never, if there is a reason that they did something, that there
Mhm.
was no fault. It was never bad. It could have not caused harm for anybody else. You see what I'm saying? They don't see their part in it.
Yes. Yes. And I think that has everything to do, again, because it's that image that we're projecting. And we do see that a lot on social media. Like Lady Blindwolf says, another thing about narcissists is that they need to have that squeaky clean reputation and care a lot about what other people think. Yes. I
Yes.
I definitely agree with that because I think that is. It's like accountability. Oh, yes, Tony. No, I'm just kidding. Accountability is, being able to say, it's not just I was wrong, it's also I don't think that way anymore. You know, we get addicted to our own thoughts. And that's that
Oh,
whole
yeah.
self-righteous thing, I think. I think, yeah, we think there's no other way to see it. Well, of course there is.
Do you know, also, when I was growing up Christian in the church, we were taught you go on and you spread the good word. That is your responsibility to go out and spread the good word as a good Christian. I've talked about this in my shadow work many years ago.
Mhm.
That it is our job, it is our mission. That's what we were taught, to go out and spread the good word. And if we didn't, then that other person's soul was in peril, or that they were going to go to hell
Ugh,
if we did not teach them the truth. That right there is self-righteous. Okay. That is self-important. That is narcissistic tendencies right there. Okay. To
yeah,
think that your way is the only way and everyone else is going to hell because, and I'm just using that as an example. I'm sure that there's other religions that say that, these
that's a
infidels or, you
that's an
know.
excellent point too, because I think about that with spirituality anyway.
Mhm.
Um, religion is belief to me with no thought. You're just following a set of rules. And
Yeah.
spirituality to me does take thought because to me it's the heart and mind combined. You know what I mean? It is being able to, not let those thoughts get in the way of what your heart wants. It's understanding that both play an important part in connecting to that spirit, because the spirit doesn't hold emotions, or you know what I mean? That's us.
Yeah.
That's our human physical self. And again, these are just my opinions, but I think that spirituality without some type of introspection, which is very psychological in my opinion, to me, they have to go hand in hand. So religion is very much just follow these rules. And spirituality says, no, let's question it. you know? So
Exactly.
yeah, absolutely. So you
I
can,
just wanted to say something really quick, sis.
yes,
Um,
absolutely.
Tony said 100% it is everywhere right now in all areas of life to be controlling.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? That falls into the autistic realm as well, because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things in here
Yes.
is controlling like their environments.
Yes.
They are very
Big time.
pattern oriented. They have to follow
Yep.
the same routines because it
Yes.
is about a matter of self protection. So
Yes.
as much as that can look like it is being narcissistic and controlling, it's about self preservation. Also,
Hallelujah,
it's
sister.
autism.
Hallelujah. If there's a day that Lennox knows she's going to school, and if on my drive there, she knows the scenery. And if I take a
Yeah.
different route, she starts stimming. She doesn't understand it. If I take the same route, she's happy and and as soon as I get there, if I don't go right in, she starts stimming and she'll take her shoes off because she's like, okay, well, I'll show you. I'm going to take my shoes off and then you got to put them on before I take you in. And, so you know what I'm getting at. If her routine is off, oh my gosh, it stresses her out so bad. Now, what's recommended with that? Something called ABA therapy, which is a form of teaching our children to mask so that they fit in. And that takes so much energy for someone who is autistic or under that neurodivergent umbrella to mask. So that's why sometimes when we are trying to show our authentic self here on social media, people see who we truly are. And again, you might have a different perception of that because you don't truly understand that spectrum and how it can manifest in our behaviors. So I love that you said that, because the whole controlling thing is extremely understandable. And a person that is autistic and under that umbrella doesn't necessarily understand their own boundaries either.
Yeah. But let me just say that I think some people can see when somebody's doing that, but some people cannot.
Exactly. Yes. And it's the
So
some people
that's
that
where
cannot
these
that why we're even
narcissistic
discussing.
labels come in, when it's really about self preservation for the other person.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's why we should not automatically label. That's why we should always try to come to from a place of compassion and understanding, right?
Yes.
Because you never know who you're dealing with and what they're dealing with in their life. I think also why it's so important
Oh,
that people
yes.
understand
Yes.
about neurodivergence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that we're just, I think after this podcast, even before I get back into the secret teachings of all ages, I want to touch more on this aspect, because I personally believe that a lot of people in this community have some form of neurodivergence. There's actually been studies on high level of autism and psychic abilities. So, I mean, yeah, it's, I think we were neurodivergent before we were neurotypical. So, yeah. And that's understandable, Tony, because there is a wide um, kind of like a message sometimes coming here, you know, that I can see that. So I think it's just good to have these kind of talks to get everybody's perspective, because just like I think it was Carolina, yeah, your youngest son is autistic. So I think that it's important to talk about these things and just bring awareness from our own personal point of view.
Yeah.
Was there more on that list that you wanted to talk about?
Why do autistic individuals have such strong hyperfocus? So it says many autistic people have intensely restricted interest and expansively pursue facts, details, and socialized aspects of certain topics. It's considered part of the autism spectrum disorder checklist. Restricted interest likely representing rewarding areas of competence and control. The behavior is not intentionally odd. Gently widening conversation to more reciprocal interest is often attempted, but hyper-focused interests also provide joy and stability. So channeling them into educational and vocational strengths is often possible with support. So why this stands out to me a little bit is because when you're talking with somebody that perhaps just cannot see your point of view, maybe that's why. And
Oh my goodness,
somebody
yes.
might feel like they are being dismissed, or that they are not, somebody just doesn't care to understand. Maybe it's just really difficult with the disorder that they have for them to look at larger concepts. Do you see what
Yep,
I'm saying? That you might present to
absolutely.
them.
Absolutely. And backtracking in that, I'm smiling because that is a big, it's one of the characteristics that, somebody that is diagnosing will look for. And it is, if you're hyper focused on something, and in the, again, everything has the shadow aspect of is exactly what you just said. It's
Right.
it's not that they can't, you know what I mean, because they don't respect you or love you.
Right.
It's because there's part of their brain that does not understand, or it's painful for them to think something different. And it's, oof, that is such a
But see,
big point. Yes.
if we don't understand that they are autistic and we think that
Mhm.
they have narcissistic tendencies, then we feel like it's an attack on us, or we are being dismissed by this person that has self-importance, when, like you just said, it is extremely painful for them to be able to try and process those
Yep.
things.
And how many times have we heard this? And I know you have. I've heard it plenty of times. I'm sorry. I love what you're saying, but I'm going to stick to this because this works for me. And,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
sometimes we think, oh, okay, it might hurt our feelings because we don't understand. Maybe
Mhm.
that person just really can't. You know what
Right.
I'm Oh my goodness. It makes me want to cry
Yeah.
because that is so accurate.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
know what? I mean, I even took the test and it said I was neuro typical.
Hmm.
Well, it didn't say that. It just said that, well, the test that I took, it was
Yeah.
like anything that was over 50 was neurodivergent, and I was like in the high 30s.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe I need to take the test again, because I do feel like I fall under many of these things.
Yeah, I think we all do here. I tested at a 130.
Okay.
So, I
Goodness
mean,
gracious.
but sis, I've told you before, I learned to mask at a very young age. But, being in the entertainment business early on, uh a good show, and for 3 days after, I pretty much couldn't even talk because I was just I couldn't. I was shut down. But I had to mask. I had to mask. It's a performance, and that's what masking is. It's a performance for someone else. It's not for you because it is hard. It is so
Right.
hard. Yeah.
And the masking part, that sounds very similar to another bit of stuff that I was researching was sociopath. Okay. And
Ooh.
sociopaths
Hi, Courtney.
are known for like impersonating or pretending because they don't feel the same kind of emotions. So they pay attention to what other people want or need and how they act so that they can fit in. That is very closely related, in my opinion, to what somebody would do as far as masking, because not that they don't feel emotions, maybe they feel them so intensely, but they have to mask in order to feel like they fit in socially, because it all has to do with social interactions.
Boy, that is a good point too, and you're not wrong. You're not wrong. There's always that you either can't control your emotions because they just come out. You can't do nothing and they just come out, or you don't understand how someone else is feeling what they're feeling.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, exactly what you said, masking to fit in because you don't want to look a certain way. Yeah.
I mean, how
Yeah.
many times have you gone to work and you put on your work face?
Oh
You
my
are
God.
not the same as what you are. And you know what? We do that with people.
Mm-hmm.
You just know that there are certain relationship dynamics that you become different. So when you've gone to like a funeral and it's a big funeral and people get up and they start talking about this person, you're like, well, gosh, that's not how I knew that person. You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
because we are different in different relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Not that that's a bad thing, not that we're fake. It's just there's different dynamics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I do believe that even though the things might overlap, that there are things that, like even myself, I know that I have a high level of neurodivergence, even without an actual diagnosis. Too many previous diagnoses tell me I'm in that category. But it those words that we have talked about before, gaslighting and passive aggression.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about those? Like, so even a quick summary, and I think we all already know, but gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation where someone deliberately tries to make another person doubt their sanity. And it could be, or doubt their perception or reality. So it means minimizing feelings. I think of toxic positivity there.
Yeah.
Or experiences, observations, often to control or gain an advantage on that person. Control. But why would, I mean, maybe let's, can you think of any examples of what?
Oh, I don't know. Like terming or using the term conspiracy theorist in order to shut down a bunch of critical thinkers. I think that's gaslighting on a large platform.
Yes.
And that it was actually an agenda that was started by the government, the CIA, in order to make people seem crazy rather than actually them figuring out stuff. Okay. So yes, I think our society does it all the time. Aliens. Let's just blacklist people, or these new scientific discoveries that come up. Well, that doesn't fit our agenda, so we're just gonna change it here. We're gonna make them look like they don't know what they're talking about. It is gaslighting on a massive scale. When you are in a conversation with somebody,
yes.
Oh my gosh, yes, they do.
Yes, they do. My gosh, big time.
I've been to school. I know these things better than you. No, nobody knows my body better than I do. So you listen to me because I am just as much a part of this as you are. But a lot of people are afraid, so they just listen to their doctors like they are. And I'm not discrediting doctors, but a good doctor knows that they have to have a good patient also in order to get the right diagnosis and all that.
I love what Lady Blind Wolf said, because when you think about this and what you said about social media, so gaslighting, clearly the person that is doing it has no control over the situation. So the thing of it is social media is pushing a narrative. You know what I mean? There is always a narrative, and the narrative causes division because it's a narrow-minded narrative. It doesn't matter what it is. It's all over social media, somebody thinks this way, and if you don't think this way, you must be against
Uh-huh.
my beliefs, or you
Yep.
must be a bad person because you do not fit my narrative. And kind of like what Summer says about doctors doing it, because their narrative is they're trying to, either sell something for the pharmaceutical company, or they need, hello, they're making money off of you. So yes, you better believe what they're telling you. It's yes and yes and yes.
Mhm. Political.
Yes.
If you are this, if you're with this political party, then you're either stupid, you're uneducated. If you're with this one, then you're evil and you're trying to control. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
Look
Yes.
beyond that and have conversations with people instead of being so decisive about the person that you've known all your life. Okay?
Yes. Oh my. And you know what? We've all fallen into that
Yep.
trap
Yes, we have.
because that narrative validates us somehow.
Yeah.
And so without looking outside of, oh, okay, maybe there are two sides to this. You're going to fall into that trap. Yes, making you second guess yourself or
Yep.
feel crazy when you were once certain you saw, heard, etc., whatever it was being done or said. That is definitely a form of gaslighting. And why? Again, because the person that's gaslighting you doesn't have control over what you saw.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So they're trying to convince you otherwise. Yes, absolutely. It's doubt to question your own memory, your perception, or even your sanity.
Yep. Exactly. So if you are doubting somebody and saying, well, you didn't really experience that. So let's put it in spiritual context. So for somebody that says, well, this is who I am a devotee of, let's say Hecate, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then you talk about your experiences, and then another person comes and says, well, that's not real. That was not really Hecate. Or if you are reading tarot and you interpret your cards a certain way and somebody says, well,
I
it's not
know.
really the right way to interpret them, that is essentially like gaslighting somebody else, okay?
Yep.
Or dismissing them.
So how do you combat that? What is the best way to combat something like that when somebody is deliberately doing that? Do you, I mean, we've talked about this too. How would you combat that?
You have to have a strong constitution.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have faith in yourself.
Yes.
You have to be able to. That's why what the work. And hi, Courtney. I'm sorry to say, hello to you, sweetheart. I love you. The work that she's going to be doing with the goddess and embracing the dark goddess this month. This is such important work. I cannot.
It is. I agree. I agree.
Because it is all about empowerment. It's all about seeing our darkness and embracing our darkness.
Yes.
And some might say that's kind of narcissistic, okay? But no, it's called about empowerment and embracing our sacred anger. And it's just really good work that we're going to be doing this month, okay?
Yep, I agree. I am looking forward to it and very excited about it because there were certain things that she said in her video. And the biggest, you want to know, when you said, Courtney, I know this is a little bit off topic, but you said, bringing helping somebody transition from this physical into the aether and from the material into the aether, I about broke down because that not understanding that was the divine feminine, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was, God, it impacted me so much and made me realize that there's so many things that we don't recognize, that beautiful thing, the divine feminine. And
exactly.
Oh, yeah, I'm so looking forward to this, Courtney. You have no idea.
And she's been doing all year and probably before that, like this deep work. So she is the perfect person to be leading us. And I'm so here for it.
Me too.
And what Summer said, say something like, did you mean to tell me my opinion is wrong? Or did you mean to imply I can't read the cards, etc.?
Yeah, it's belittling. Yes.
It is belittling.
Yep. 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 Yeah. And if you don't agree, then you should take yourself off my friend list. Yep, I will, because I'm not here for one way or the other thinking. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Exactly.
Yes. Self-love, you have to be certain in
Absolutely.
yourself.
See, the thing is, sometimes, especially when it's somebody like me, and Summer and I talked about this also, and Carly, you're the same way.
Mhm.
We are so, we've got big personalities, okay? We are very strong
Yeah.
in our beliefs and in our
Yep.
opinions. Our mother taught us that, okay? She instilled that in us from the time we were little.
Yep, and we're good at it.
Oh, yeah, we're very good at it. But we also have those voices that kind of carry, they're deep set, they're
Yes.
very authoritative. So
Yeah.
when we say our opinion,
Yeah.
sometimes when somebody is not as strong in their own beliefs,
That's
they
what it
think that we're
is.
challenging them, but we're not.
Yep.
We're just
Yep.
believing what we believe. We're just sharing our own
Absolutely.
opinion. But
Yes.
so you
Mhm.
have to have a strong constitution and be confident in what you are doing every step of the way, so that when somebody also shares their brightness, you don't be a part of their shadow. You shine just as brightly as they do.
Oh, thank you, Summer. I appreciate that.
Thank
Yeah.
you, sweetheart. I love you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right, sis, because I know that's why I think that discussions like this are really important, because it is natural for us to assume things about people.
Yes.
It's just, it's the human part of us, you know? I mean, that doesn't, that's when we come from this place, it's not to say we've never done these things, because that's how we have learned, is because we did these things.
Exactly.
It's like,
Definitely not goody two
shit.
shoes.
No, we've been on the other side of everything we're talking about, because that's what is knowledge without application. It's nothing really.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
If fairy once suggested I ask if I really need that negative energy in my life. If I don't, cut it loose. No need to explain. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, hallelujah.
Hallelujah. That's how you say it, Carla.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So, I have been accused of this before, of toxic positivity.
Oh, good God.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, let's break it down. What is toxic positivity?
Break it down.
Break it down. Yeah.
Toxic positivity, in my opinion, is very dismissive. So if somebody tells you something that they're going through, you just more or less say, oh, well, at least you're lucky that it wasn't this, or, you know, but I think in the bigger terms, a lot of people are in our society or in our community. People look at people that are just positive and try to look at the silver lining and everything, not dismissing what you've been through, but try to offer another alternative or way to look at it as toxic positivity. I absolutely disagree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes only being able to focus on the positive things is also a matter of survival, because guess what? As somebody that has been accused of being a toxic positive person, it is because I see all the friggin' negativity that I have to focus on the positive, or it can take me down really quickly.
Yeah. Because you've already lived in the dark. You've already been there.
I'm always there. Are you kidding me? I'm,
Yeah. It's
I'm
like,
always there. That's where my mind goes first.
yeah. Yeah. I want to put on here what Summer said. I think assumption is almost automatic in our way of thinking. And it's our ability to think critically that second guesses our own assumption and see it as assumption.
Right on.
Yes. Gosh.
Self-awareness, sweetheart, right there. Oh,
Yes. Yes. Because we all go here. It's just it's taking accountability for your own thoughts.
yep, your own
And hi,
BS.
Jess. Jess, thank you. Yes. That's what it is. And man, toxic positivity is dismissing someone's pain. It's dismissing that they are actually feeling something about this and going, oh, that's the person that is dismissing someone else's feelings
Yes.
is the toxic positive person. And so I think the
Right.
person that might be calling you out as being toxic positive, well, where's that coming from? It's an assumption. It's a projection of their own
Yeah.
not being able to. I don't know, maybe they don't want to see the positive in it. I don't know. But it's still
Exactly.
something inside of them. It's like, how in the heck do you know if somebody is toxic positivity unless you are totally discrediting someone else's journey as being valid?
Exactly. Which is exactly what they're saying toxic positivity is.
Yeah.
I think that there's more a problem with toxic negativity,
Oh my
where
goodness.
we are too
Yes.
much in our victimhood and all of that than what
I
we are
do
in
too.
seeing a productive and positive way out of it. I don't ever want to dismiss somebody's feelings, but I
Yeah.
also don't want somebody to wallow in it where they can never see their way out of it either.
Yes. Yes. I agree with you so much about that. When you experience so much darkness, you
You know?
need to look for the positive because, I mean, seriously, there's no light without dark and vice versa because it's polarity, right? So if you want to live in one, it's nobody's business where you live.
Right.
It's just what are you projecting? If you're projecting the darkness, then you're sharing the darkness, but it's like why are we even why are we even discussing it? Because again, it's one of those assumptions. It's we don't know. And understanding that, someone that has gone through the dark and chooses to, not live there, you know what I mean? Like get stuck there.
Exactly. Yeah.
It just shows that they are progressively trying to, do what's best for them.
Better their life.
Yeah, it
Exactly.
just doesn't. Yeah, that's one. I guess that's a pet peeve, and
It is for me too.
I like, really, what the hell do you know about me? I got spiders on my desk and I love them. They're my friends, Of course they're
Yeah.
fake. They're fake.
And for us to think that we know somebody by social media also, because a lot of
Oh,
this stuff is just
yes.
social media stuff. Well, I know who they are by social media, right?
Yeah.
No, you don't. Because of what they project on their channel, you don't really know that person. Get over yourself.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep. And like you said, taking a look at toxic negativity, that's someone that does have the tendency to see the worst in every situation. It's very pessimistic point of view, but you're still projecting your own inner pain or negative emotions onto others. So you're still, keyword, projecting.
You know what? Tony says, I don't think coming from darkness to positive is toxic. That's assessing self-reaction and balancing yourself. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes.
Know thyself, right?
Yes. Ooh. Some are stuck there because they can't fill a hole in the darkness they are stuck in.
Yep.
Yes, toxic
Toxic
negativity, but
negativity.
this is a part of a path's challenge. Will you rise or stay? Oh,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah, and I
What
think
can
that
you do
doing
about
this
what you're
work.
feeling? What can you do about what you're feeling? Right?
Yeah. Yes,
Embrace
exactly.
it and then fix it.
Because what you feel is valid. And it means that if
Absolutely.
somebody is staying positive, it's valid and they're doing it for their own
Self-preservation.
self-preservation. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Labeling, again, we can go back to that whole thing, is it's for yourself. It's not for someone else. And we do it. I'm not saying that we don't, but it's of no help to the person that you're labeling. So I mean, it's like you had said that before. It's like telling somebody what they are because of what you see. Well,
Yep.
okay, you don't think I didn't think about that? I look in the mirror,
Yep.
jackass. It's like, fuck. Sorry. I'll bleep that out later.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, bleep that out later. So yeah, yeah,
You know what? We're never going to be able to fix ourselves. And I don't even want to say fix ourselves. That was the wrong thing. But I, I don't think that we're ever going to be empowered enough in our own light and darkness until we go through the dark. So
yeah,
that is why shadow work is so important.
yeah. It's the
Don't
fool's
fear it.
journey. It's the
Move
fool's
towards it.
journey. When he gets to, key 22, he's gone through all the bullshit and he still has all the optimism. I'm
Yeah.
like, it doesn't mean that he didn't experience all those things, but to someone on the outside, he might still look like the fool.
Yep, exactly.
It's all perception.
It's all perception.
Yeah. Wow. I think, yeah, what you said about knowing thyself is really the only way. To me, so again, knowing yourself is more important than anything else.
Yep. Yep.
And we're all going to have different ways of doing that, no matter what it is. And I think this work that we're going to be doing with Courtney is going to be, oh my gosh, so beneficial.
Instrumental.
Yes. Yes. There is, in my opinion, a very, it's important to discuss these things about how we feel spiritually and psychological, because I think that it affects our spirit.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that's why, I had such a desire to even contemplate what this is, you know what I mean? And what it means to each of us. Because we have all been here. We've all done it.
Yep.
We've all said these things about other people, or if we didn't, we thought it.
Yep.
So being able to discuss it, I think, is important for each of our own. Again, just something to think about. It's that whole food for thought thing.
I mean, gosh, Carla, there are so many channels. I still see it all over the place. That's all they do is focus on. And there's one lady in particular. I mean, you and I have talked about her.
Oh,
doctor
yes.
who talks about narcissism and covert narcissism and how it runs in the family and blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I understand that she's trying to make her channel larger on that. But the way that she makes it seem is like it's so widely spread and every other person is a narcissist, and how you deal with it. That is just, don't take that stuff to heart. Seriously, I'm telling you, don't take it to heart, because a true narcissist, it's very rare diagnosis. Instead of just saying, oh, that person's a narcissist, I'm not going to deal with them anymore. You know what I mean? Just come from a place of compassion and understanding and having a conversation with that person rather than putting labels on another person, because all that does is cause division rather than unity. And as people, we need to come together in unison. That's just my opinion.
Absolutely. I resonate with that 200%. And, perception is reality. And Summer says, yes, it does affect spirit, and your perception becomes reality. And think about this. When we're talking about being self-righteous, does it really matter what someone else's reality is to you?
Exactly.
It does. It really doesn't. You might tell yourself it does. You know what I mean? But I mean, it really doesn't, because this whole experience is all about you, babe.
Yep.
And again, oh, that's my ego. No, it really is all about you. and how you affect the everything around you. You know what I mean? Because you're the pebble in the pond causing the waves. It's not the other way around.
Yes, exactly. And what Lady Blind Wolf said is spot on.
Yes, spiritual and psychological and mental abuse can really affect. Yes. And it affects
what
our
she said
spirit.
after that. Yes.
There's a difference between being a narcissist and having narcissistic tendencies. Yes, we all have narcissistic tendencies, but a narcissist is the person that won't recognize it and cure the situation. Hallelujah.
Yep. So somebody that doesn't want to do their shadow work. Okay.
Yes.
I'm stuck in my ways. This is how I am. Accept me like this or not. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Instead of just taking a look at yourself and why you might be the way that you are, even if it comes down to understanding how you might come off to other people, or how your own baggage, because two people can say, or you can say the same thing exactly, but the way that somebody takes it is in their own level of baggage.
Yeah, because think about this. that whole analogy, when you throw the pebble into the lake, say there were no waves, or someone else caused some waves. Either way, you jump in, you're still causing more waves, right?
Yeah.
And if that pebble still gets pushed around from the waves that are being caused, it still was someone else causing the waves. You still added to that. You still caused more waves. And if it's still moving you around, it's still something caused the waves. The waves didn't cause themselves. And if we all take accountability for the waves that we're creating, well, it kind of puts it into that perspective that, oh, I guess, maybe there's no waves if we're not causing waves, and there's other things outside that will make waves, you know what I mean? But it's still, the waves are not causing themselves. It's the snake eating its tail, right? We all have to choose how we will wake up and affect others. Are we aware? And are we aware of how we make others feel or see other sides? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But see, sometimes, unless people are willing to be honest with you also, though, that is where I see a lot of problems, when people just hold on to stuff instead of telling other people how they feel in the moment. That other person doesn't know either, because they can't read your mind.
Yeah, well, we can read minds, sis.
Okay. I
Sorry.
I can, okay, but it's more I can read intentions, but
Yeah.
and someone's energy.
Yes,
But
absolutely. Yes.
unless you tell them how it makes you feel, especially if you are a heavy masker, they're just going to keep on treating you the way that they have, thinking that everything is good. So it's just as much your fault as it is their fault for the lack of communication, because it comes down to two people. It always comes down to two people when you
Yes.
communicate.
Yes. Everyone has their part to play.
Right.
And Lady Blindwolf says another thing about narcissists is that they will always flip the situation and make themselves the victim. Poor me, look at what everybody's doing to me. And you know what?
Yeah.
That's really, I think, where narcissism comes from, is victimhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we get lost in our own victimhood. And it doesn't mean that that automatically makes you a narcissist. It means that that's where it begins. And like we talked about earlier, is that if we don't take accountability, if we don't get the help that we need, if we don't, you know what I mean? There's treatment for that. And there's also, we know what our own personal treatment is. It's called shadow work. It's called accountability.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh no, you can read minds. Where's my tinfoil? Don't think about it. I love that. Right? That's what I mean. Are you aware of yourself? Well said, Rachele. Absolutely. Yep. Oh, I did a video just like that. And I had been silent for too long and stuff and just let loose. Yes.
Yeah. But see, that is the thing. Too much, we are told just to squish it. That's another reason why I'm pointing out this work that Courtney's going to be doing this month, right? Empowerment. Women are told to stay in their place, stay in your lane, keep your mouth shut about certain things. Just things build up, and then you just let loose and it destroys everything. Because if you would have just said, this is how I'm feeling right now, and have a discussion about it instead of,
I've so been there. You already know. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
I have always been like painfully, truthfully honest, and it has come back and bite me in the ass so many times. But at the same time, it actually helps me, because I don't like things to build up. I like to be honest and upfront so that things don't get out of control.
Right.
But sometimes people either love you or hate you for that.
Yeah, you're right. You are right. Maybe we just all need therapy because maybe a person is masking because that's what they've been indoctrinated to do because they're not allowed to feel emotion or stick up for themselves. And yeah, again,
Exactly. Because
we
if
just
you
don't
do, then you're a
know.
narcissist or you're,
Yep.
yeah.
Make
Hmm.
yourself small because that's what you're supposed to do. And God,
Right.
it's so fucking heartbreaking that we even feel that way because, it doesn't help us to do that. It helps the person that wants you small,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
So I just want to say thank you to everybody. I think that this has been a really complex chat, you know what I mean? But I think it was something I think our voices, all of our voices should be heard, when it comes to this, because like you had talked about that psychologist that is
Yep.
always on about narcissism. And I think we can all picture her, who she is,
Uh-huh.
you know. Um, yeah, it's not something to be making money off of. And I think it's caused a lot of freaking damage.
Yeah, because it just creates division. It makes everybody look at another person and go, oh, that's a narcissist.
Yep. When
That's a
we're the
narcissist.
ones out here that are, some people are, again, can handle listening to opinions outside of the box type thing,
Uh-huh.
but not everyone can. And it's each to their own,
Yep.
So when we're putting a message out there that's meant to divide, it's going to, because we don't all think alike.
Yep. But there's unity in allowing everybody to have their own opinions and their own beliefs. If we actually listen, that's when we learn. That's
Yeah.
when we learn.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But then that's what I was talking, you brought it up, that good point about the neurodivergence. And sometimes it's, we allow that conditioning because we can't handle anything else. It's all we've ever known. And there's something that is hard to break free from because of our own wiring. You know what I mean?
And the way that we were also raised, also,
Yep.
right? And the
And
way that society deems certain behavior.
Yep. And I think that that's why we have the professionals, not to be out on frickin' YouTube and making money on YouTube. No, that's what you have your private business for. And
Right.
go talk to somebody that can help you with that. You know what I mean? Talk to a
Right.
professional. And if you think you have a problem communicating, or maybe you've been called that too many times, go talk to somebody. Don't let social media negate what you are and what you aren't.
Yeah. So Lady Blindwolf says, but the thing is with the narcissist, they don't get the help that they need. They're not honest with themselves. They're not honest with the therapist, and a narcissist knows how to manipulate the situation. And I can't say that 100% because I'm not a therapist. I'm not a narcissist. I don't know the statistics of that. When we make broad statements like that, we don't know. There could be people that have been diagnosed narcissists that want to help themselves. We can't just automatically say that they're not. There is help for it.
There are ways that they trick you too, because I've been to the therapist's office enough to know that the tests that you take are to get similar results, but they will mess up the questions. And believe me, they know what to ask. So if you are trying to manipulate, and let me tell you, I'm not saying that it's not possible, but someone would have to be very aware of these tests and I would say, a high level of intelligence. You know what I mean? And not all narcissists have a high level of intelligence either. They do not go hand in hand. Do I think more narcissists are extremely intelligent? Yes,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean that that's the case.
But neurodivergent are also highly intelligent.
Yes, they are. And that was one of the things that the therapist we were talking about, that psychologist, that says, "Oh, there's no overlap." Like horseshit. There is an overlap.
Yes, there is. You don't have to be a therapist or somebody that's trained in that to know from personal experience and from life experience. We are all people that experience these things. Okay.
Yeah.
Applied wisdom. Okay. Experience wisdom.
It's the new buzzword for shite behavior. Absolutely. Absolutely. So barefoot, yes, Rachele. I disagree with a lot of what you gals say, but that's okay. I respect you, and it's good for me to listen as openly as I can. Love you.
Thank you.
It's just what I
And
say.
that goes both ways, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Although I would love to hear your thoughts
Yeah,
sometime,
absolutely.
because I think that a different point of view is important.
Yes, it is. It's
It's
always
always
welcomed.
important.
Yes.
And intelligence can be in different areas. You can be
Yeah.
intelligent in social cue. Oh my gosh, yes, but not therapy stuff. Or you can be street intelligent versus book smart.
Yep. And
Hallelujah. Yes.
emotional intelligence, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Disagreeing is also how you stay true to yourself.
Right
Yes,
on.
exactly. You can't just go around and go, "Yep, you're right. You're right. Right." Well, which one? Which one?
And it
Which
helps
one's right?
nobody to agree. That's a people pleaser. You agree
Yes.
when you really don't agree. You know what I mean? That's
Yes.
not good for us.
Just to keep the peace.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you
Absolutely.
can have a conversation that opens your, expands your mind and your heart from a
Exactly.
loving place so
Mhm.
that you do want to expand yourself. You see what I'm saying?
Look, look, look.
um,
Yep.
I remember somebody had mentioned, or it was going around, that one of the police officers, this was, when the incident happened with, I don't even know if I should say it because it could cause problems. But anyways,
Oh,
that they thought that he should not be able to write a book about his experiences because of his involvement. And I just totally disagree with that. I think people need to have a voice and tell their stories always, even when we don't like what they have to say, because that's how we learn.
yep.
Period.
Yep. I think that that's probably a good statement right there, because if
But
everyone
how do
was
we know
getting
that? How do we
right,
know?
I'm just saying, if everyone was getting the help they needed, we probably wouldn't be having this type of discussion. you know, but it starts with accountability anyway. And again, we all know we have these tendencies. So if someone is working on trying,
I'm sorry.
oh, that's okay. As long as we're working on, accountability for ourselves, period, and it doesn't really matter. It's no one else's business, obviously, if we're doing that. But I think that these things manifest on social media. It's our own perception that, are they really or are they not?
I think we project a lot of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That is how important it is for you to label somebody something because of what you think you know about them. How important is it for you to do that? Is it at your detriment to make sure that someone else hears your opinion of this person? Or I don't know. I guess I don't even. Yeah, it does matter, but it matters to the person that needs that help. And God, we can't. There's just nothing that I can do for myself to get somebody to do that for themselves. You know what I mean? We can just do it for ourselves.
Yeah. Where do you think social climbers cite in this thought process? I guess I'm not understanding that. Do you understand that question, Sissy?
No. Are you asking us to like
What they think, what we think our perception
what
of social climbers think
social
of this thought process? Is that what you're saying?
maybe? I'm sure
When you
she'll.
say cites, maybe their opinions on what we're saying?
Oh, kitchen table conversations. Yes, I do.
You know what?
Yeah.
Why couldn't we have where, if you want to, sis,
Uh-huh.
have a private conversation that never gets aired where we just talk about this if we want to talk about it? I would love to hear what Darla has to say and why she disagrees on many of these things.
Yeah, and we could kind of maybe Yeah, I'm all for
Just
that.
private. It doesn't ever have to be, never go on social media. Just a private conversation
I
like
would love
this,
to
in
do that.
private.
I would love to do that. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, unless
Exactly.
we're the person living that life. Yes.
Exactly.
Learning perspective from discussion and learning from sharing is the biggest form of growth and narrative enhancement instead of cancel culture.
Right
Yes,
on.
yes.
Right on. Site.
Sit, not sight. Oh, where they are in the night. Oh, yeah. It's like, who else is
Yeah.
talking about this? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just someone that has psychological or, professional background is
I
usually
think
where I hear it from.
I
So,
I think the more that I have seen, it's more people talking about narcissism in a whole, about what to watch out for and all this other stuff, instead of really talking about how there could be correlations and for us to come from a place of compassion. Most of everything that I see on narcissism is in order to divide people on social media.
right. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's good to talk about. And the only reason Rachele and I really wanted to talk about it is because of the dismissive way it's used,
Uh-huh.
especially knowing that it is a clinical diagnosis that people
Right.
actually do get help for. I think,
Mhm.
like Lady Blind Wolf says, I think that it could be a rare diagnosis because, yeah, the narcissist has trouble seeing that they have this disorder. You know what I mean?
But there's no way of us knowing that. That's a projection. There
Yes.
is no way of us knowing that unless we
Yes.
actually had the figures for it, right?
No, you're exactly right. I mean, there are all sorts of possibilities. It's the same thing that I said for women that go undiagnosed with autism because they're masking.
Right.
And as a society, when you look at the difference between neurotypical and neurodivergent, I think we are more neurodivergent. And I think we were neurodivergent before we were neurotypical. And why I believe that is because of my own experiences with my granddaughter and then taking it upon myself to understand what autism and neurodivergence is. I think that the Neanderthals were neurodivergent and they did not communicate with language.
Mhm.
Nothing was mistranslated through language. No, they communicated like birds. And yet obviously birds, they're obviously communicating well, right? They have their own
Like a
language
hive
and they are
mind or
telepathic,
yes.
which means they communicated through grunts, noises, intentions, energy, whatever it is. And
Look at
here now
whales.
all of a sudden
Dolphins, solar
language, which I think is the Tower of Babel, was created to freaking
or
confuse us
solar.
on purpose. And we
Yeah.
let it. We let it. So much shit gets lost in translation, and it is because of perception. So
I think you're definitely onto something there, sis. Definitely.
if we took the language out of it, look, we would only be communicating with intentions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nothing really gets lost in there, does it? Because
Maybe
that's
the
what masking is.
neurodivergent part is us coming back to that again then.
I think it is. I think you can't help
Humanity
what was always meant to be.
evolving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's just my opinion, but I think that's where we began. And then, you know how I feel. I think these people from the stars or another planet or whatever came and said, if we want to get these people to work for us, we need to program them to follow directions.
Um.
No, you're not allowed to be neurodivergent. You need to be neurotypical if you want to follow directions and understand what we're saying to you.
Right.
Hmm. So yeah. But yeah, we're at an hour and almost 30
Oh,
minutes here.
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean I think we could say a lot, and I just want to say thank you so much to everyone that was here and giving us your thoughts on this because I I have enjoyed this, and I think that it was an important discussion, and I'm grateful that you guys were here for it. And
And do
thank you
you guys
so
want to have a private chat about it? Is that something that you guys would like to do?
yeah.
Let us know in the comments now. Where you have a voice also, because we've pretty much already talked about it. And it's,
Yeah. I love you too. Love
love
you
you,
too.
sweetheart.
Yeah. A big subject matter.
I'm not necessarily talking about right now, sweetheart.
Well, you know what? We can continue to talk about this in the either your Discord or divination and spirituality.
Yeah, we could, but
And then just again in the comments
not
too, is I just meant for like a time, sis. I just meant
yeah.
And Darla, definitely email me or Rachele or anyone, and we can talk about this. It would be in private. We don't even need to turn our cameras on like now. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because Lord knows I'm still in my jammies. So
I did get dressed, but
oh, did you? You're always trying to one up me, sis. No, just kidding.
That's because I'm a narcissist.
Oh my God, I love it.
I love you.
I love you. Okay, so we're going to sign off here, and I want to say thank you again, and I love you guys. So I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day and has a beautiful weekend.
Love you guys. Thank you for being here.
Bye.
Ciao.